Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again. We'll go ahead and continue with our tutorial for Keep It Lit. And now what I'd like to do is start getting into how we're going to put in our light and physical wall boundaries for the VTT. Uh, Start off here. I'm going to minimize the visibility window here for a moment, and I'm going to go back to the wall editor. I already talked about the world scaler, which we just need to set once when we first import a new map. But now we have two other modes of operation that we're going to use for defining our walls. And the one that I use the most is called the vertex mode. So I'm going to click on that. Now, to navigate around on the map, I can right click and just hold the right mouse button and drag. And what you will see, also if I roll the mouse wheel, I can zoom in and out. What you will see is when the map was first imported, there were walls that were automatically placed at the extents of the map. These red boundaries are our walls, and then the blue dot or square here in the corner, these are vertices. And as you can see, when I drag the mouse pointer, I'm just hovering over it, this little light blue circle is the point in which I would drop in a new vertices if I wanted to. So I could say click here, and you can see I've added a new vertices, and now it's highlighted, it's green. If I click somewhere else, it turns off the highlight. But this is the selected vertices if it's green. So I can add a vertex in the middle of a wall anywhere I want, and then I can click and drag with the left mouse button. I can drag that vertices anywhere I want. Now, I don't really want, I really like having the boundary here, and so I don't really want this vertices. If I drag it up near another vertices, it will automatically merge right in. And so that one that I added now is gone because they've merged into the single vertices in the corner. So that's just giving us some background on kind of what we're talking about in terms of how the map lines work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here into the lower left corner, and I'm going to grab this little room here, and I want to start adding some walls. So I'm going to make sure I'm in vertex mode. Now, first thing I'm going to do is when I get to the point where I want to start adding a wall, I'm going to find the location where I want to start, and I'm going to press the shift key down. You can see that it says shift left mouse button and drag to create a wall. So we're going to start right here, and I'm going to go shift and then left mouse button, and I start dragging. And then I'm going to go right to here, and I'm going to leave the shift button down, but I'm going to release the left mouse button, and then I'm going to move over to here, and I'm going to click the left mouse button just once. That snaps in a wall there. I'm going to go here, doing the same thing. I'm just holding the shift button down the whole time I go through this. Okay, so now I'm going to let up on the shift key, and I'm going to use the right mouse button just to kind of pan our map. I could, roll the mouse wheel if I want to zoom. Get back to where I want to be, and you can still see that I have this vertices selected. So now I'm going to press the shift key and hold it down, and then I'm going to left click again with a mouse, and I'm just going to continue the line that I was drawing before. So you can see how fast I can drop these in here. Very quick. All right, and now I'm going to release everything, and I'm just going to click somewhere else on the map. And then we can pan around, do whatever we want to do. You might have noticed down in the lower right corner here a little torch icon show up. This is the autosave feature. We don't want to lose any work that we're doing. If your computer should crash or the application should crash or something like that, we're constantly recording and all the changes you've made to the map to minimize any potential lost work. I'm going to go start now over here. So I'm going to just click this with the mouse, left mouse click, to make this the active vertices or the selected vertices, and I'm going to press the shift and hold it down, left mouse button just like I did before, and start snapping in some additional lines. And I'm going to scroll up here, we'll zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to snap in a line there. And then I'll snap in a line here, and let's just go all the way to here, and here, here, and drop these in. Okay? Now I'm going to go back to here, and you'll say, well, wait a minute, this is a corridor. There's no door here. Why is there a solid wall here? Well, I can always, in my vertex mode, I can snap in a new vertices like this. Click it once and we'll click here. Now, I've added vertices in the middle of this straight wall. Now, one thing I can do is I can get rid of this wall segment. I could delete it. Now I need to go over to this other mode here called the wall mode, and now I can select walls and I don't see the vertices. So this is individual wall segments. So I'm going to grab this wall segment and I'm just going to press the delete button. Gone. Let's go back to vertices, and now you can see that added that pretty nicely, and I'm ready to start drawing in these hallways here. So I'm going to click this, And we'll go hold the shift button and we're going to press left mouse and left mouse, and I can just go right around here. And I am free to make these as detailed as I want. I can zoom in, really try to straighten up my lines, whatever I'd like to do. And I can choose on the graphic, the graphic image that is the base map image, where exactly do I want to draw this. I've chosen to make this very easy for myself and sort of draw it into these corner squares on this graphics, just to make my life easy. But I could, if I really wanted to, I could do things like zoom into this and grab this vertices and drag it up here and try to, maximize the amount of the wall that's maybe visible. Do I want to put it, do I want the wall here with some black on it, or do I want it kind of more in the center of the stone wall? However I'd like to do that, I'm, of course, free to align that any way I want and make it as precise as I'd like. It's just a question of how much time I want to spend. I'm going to go zooming back to here now, and I'm going to single click on this, hold the shift button down again, and left mouse click right there. And we'll go up here, and I'm just going to continue holding the shift button down and snapping in these lines. Okay, so that's enough for the moment. You get the idea. Um, Now, let's see if we can get a preview of what this might look like for our tokens, our players. Okay, so we've got the fighter over here. I need to switch out of wall mode if I want to move my tokens, right? I need to make sure that the reason for that is that I don't want to be dragging tokens around and accidentally drag a portion of the wall around. So we kind of make sure they're separate. Um, the player characters have physics turned on, which means I cannot move them through a wall now. The wall we've defined, of course, I can move anywhere on the graphic I want, but through the walls we've added, they cannot be moved through that. But again, if I wanted to move the fighter from, say, this room as the DM, I want to move the fighter from this room to this hallway, I can just take the fighter, double click, and then double click. Okay, so now they're inside the hallway here. In the intervening time when the token was deselected like this, the player can't see anything, so I don't have to worry about dragging them through anything and giving them any kind of spoiler. So double click, and they're back in this room. Now let's take a look at the preview. So I'm going to go back into, I want to turn lighting back on, but you'll see that all I see is the walls. I can turn off the walls, and everything's dark. This isn't very interesting to look at. It doesn't give me the preview I'm looking for. So what I will need to do is I need to turn on a light source that our tokens have. Maybe the wizard has cast light on a staff. The fighters maybe has a torch. Um, so this is where I can use torch timers. So I'm on the wizard right here, and I can start a torch timer. I can set the time to 1 hour and have it count down from there. I can set it to 0 hours and maybe just a minute and start it there. So now I've got a torch timer and a countdown running on the wizard. So now if I turn on our lighting effects, you will see that the wizard is now is able to illuminate the hallway here. Let's turn off the walls so it looks a little bit more like what the players will see. Okay. And of course, I'm free to do the same thing with a fighter. Let's go select the fighter, and we're going to turn on torch timer for them. We'll let that be an hour by default. Okay, so now the fighter has a light source, the wizard has a light source. Now what you're seeing here is kind of the logical or, if you will, of what the fighter can see and what the wizard can see. I've got them both on the same map. Now if we're playing in multiplayer mode, the player controlling the wizard will only see this area that's illuminated. They will not see the light from the fighter. Oh, here we go. There's the torches burning out for the wizard right now. Okay, so that is the Shadow Dark torch timer effect that I was shooting for and mentioned earlier. So we'll turn it back on. Let's give him another 1 minute on his torch timer. But I will say this, that if the wizard comes to here and can see the actual light radiating from the fighter's torch, the wizard will be able to see that. So we have line of sight as well as the lighting effects due to light sources that the characters can walk around with and use to illuminate the environment. Okay, I'm going to turn the lighting back on, and we'll turn the walls back on so we can see where we're at. So that is generally how we're going to be adding walls to the environment. You can see that it's pretty fast. One thing I would like to show you really quickly on this video is how to add walls to these organic kind of caves and natural environments. So I'm going to go back to the wall editor, and I'm going to select the vertex mode again. And in this area, what I typically will do is I'll just grab the vertices like this, whichever one I want to start with, and I'm just going to kind of very crudely kind of follow this along. I'm just holding the shift button down and just sort of continuing to tap the left mouse button and just kind of follow the rough contour of the wall as it was defined by the artist that made the map originally. And I'm, free to make these as dense or as coarse as I want to as I add these into the space. It turns out that it's not really as particular as you might think. You don't have to get right in here and make this very, very detailed. You can actually make, larger chunks like this and do this very quickly, and it's not really going to affect the way the lighting works from the player's point of view. They're not really going to be noticing like the actual, shadows cast from the edges that you're drawing here. They're going to really be more focused on seeing the rock formations in the art itself. And I'll give you a demo of that in just a second after I snap in a little bit more here in this detail. The other thing to keep in mind is that for people that might have older PCs, the more lines we draw in here, the more rendering is required for the lighting and the line of sight and things like that. So making a very large map with a lot of these lines can sometimes be a pretty heavy load for computers that are getting a little bit older. I usually don't have too much problem. I can have like 1,000 of these little wall segments on a map without really bogging down much of anything. And I don't have the latest and greatest PCs by any means. So I'm just going to stop right there. Clearly, we can keep going and fill it all in. But let's take a look at what it would kind of look like in a preview for our players real quick. And then we'll wrap this video up. So I'm going to double click the fighter. Oops, close the wall editor. Double click the fighter. Turn off physics so I can drag him through some walls. So I'm going to drop him in here. Double click. And there we go. And we'll go turn lighting back on. And now we can, let's turn our walls off so it looks a little more organic. So this is what our fighter would see as he's exploring these caves. All right, so you can see I did this pretty quickly and it really doesn't affect, we didn't need to make him any higher density. This was plenty good, and it gives you a really nice view of what these natural caverns would look like. Okay, all right, so I'm going to wrap up this video now. Please join me for the next one. We'll go through some more details of Keep It Lit. Talk to you soon. Hey everyone. Sorry, I needed to add a little bit more to our last video on maps, so I'm just kind of adding this on to the end of that video. Something that I didn't really talk about is on this menu here, we've got the ability to save the map image, and this is a very important thing. Of course, I mentioned previously that we have an autosave that's going to save your work as you go to make sure we minimize any loss that you might encounter. But you should make sure that you get in the habit of just hitting, here's the autosave right here, this torch. But click save periodically yourself. It's just a good idea to get in the habit of doing that, of course. And the autosave is a uniquely named file. The save is just going to update your actual save. So every time you open up a map, it's going to say, do you want to restore from the autosave? We will eventually be a little bit more intelligent about the way we do that so that we can tell the difference between the timestamps on the actual save that you did manually through here versus the autosave to make sure that you don't ever lose anything. But the bottom line is all of the data is saved and you should be able to collect it and restore to where you were. It does work right now, but it will be refined over time. So on this menu, just remember, here's your save. Set map image. If you wanted to change the map image after it's already created, I really don't recommend that you do that because you're going to end up with potential scaling problems. Like if you set the map image with, like, instead of a 4K, you use an 8K image, the size of the image may be different. And if you've added any walls and things like that in your map so far, they may not line up properly. So I wouldn't really recommend that you use this a lot. Just be very careful if you do. The token library here on this menu just allows you to, grab your token library here, and you can, grab some. Okay, I've got let's say fire elemental. Okay, I'm going to put fire elemental in here, so I can just go to the token library and I can add tokens at any time I want in my dungeon. The preview window, we will have a video covering that, and then load map. If I wanted to, I'm going to do this real quick here. Let me just save the map where we are right now. And then if I wanted to load a map, I could go to any other map within the campaign and click it, and it will just reload that map right where we are. We don't have to back out through the menuing system to do that. Okay? Um, and then, of course, if I hit back, I'm going to go back to the campaign editor. That will close this map and take me back one level into the campaign editor, which I don't really want to do right now, but you can see these other menu functions and capabilities. Okay? Um, I should also mention one other thing about the visibility menu here. There's lighting effects. This lighting effects controls whether or not the torches are going to flicker and lanterns are going to flicker or not in your image. So you can turn that on or off if you want to. Okay, so I just wanted to add that on to the last video. All right, we'll talk to you soon.